What's up guys, Gray here. Welcome back to another New World video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Greataxe and all of the different gem options in the game to help us figure out which gem will be the best gem for you. Now, obviously that's a bit of a subjective question. The answer is going to change depending on your playstyle. If you're more into PvP or PvE, that is going to determine a lot of things. But we're going to take a look at all of the gems as they can be used on the Greataxe, and that may help you decide which gem will fit your playstyle the best. So if you guys find the video helpful, do me a favor, leave a like down below and smash that subscribe button for me. We just passed 10K subscribers, which absolutely blows my mind. Thank you guys so much for that. And with that out of the way, let's dive right into the video. So what we're going to do, guys, I did go and pick up basically a copy of every gem in the game. There are two that we're not going to test. We'll talk about that at the end. There's two that don't really apply here and give us any bonuses with the Greataxe. We'll talk about those at the end. But we slot them all in. We're using the same axe and sort of the same stats here so that you can really just see what the gem does. So to start out, what we're going to do is actually remove all of our stats, and we're going to spec into 200 strength. We're just going to go right up to 200 strength. Greataxe scales off of strength, so you'll most likely be speccing into strength. You could do some different stuff depending on different builds. We'll talk about that later. But for the majority of our tests, we'll be at 200 strength. So we do want to get a baseline so you can see those numbers. 200 strength with no gem in the weapon at all. We're going to hit for 606 base damage and 849 crit. Those will be the base numbers here that we can keep in mind when we see what the gems actually do. So what we'll do right off the bat, starting out, we're going to test out the Onyx Gem first. Now I am using all of the tier 4 gems here. So what the Onyx Gem does, it gives you bonus damage against any target that is at full health. Now this can be really helpful. It is a big boost to the damage. You can see when the target is at full health, instead of doing 606 like we did in our base, it jumps all the way up to 750 and 1051 on a crit. So it's a pretty big jump. But the thing to keep in mind, this is going to be pretty rare for it to occur. Like I said, it's only going to be on that first hit. That can be useful in PvE when you're fighting mobs. You can hit them really hard right off the bat. And it can be good in PvP if you're doing a really clean 1v1 duel. But if you're in things like Outpost Rush, if the enemy even is one tick below full health, your gem is null and void. It's not doing anything in that combat scenario. So that is something to keep in mind. The next one we're going to look at is the Opal. What this gem does, it gives us a damage bonus while we are below 100 stamina, which isn't bad because that's actually going to be active pretty often. I mean, if you're in combat, you're going to be dodging and moving, and you're going to be spending your stamina, which means you're always going to have this effect active. Granted, it's not necessarily the biggest damage boost in the world. You can see we went from 606 at our base to 675, and the crit damage goes up the same amount as well. Like I said, it's going to be active a lot. If you're blocking damage and taking hits, that does chip away at your stamina, which is going to give you sort of a little bonus damage when you retaliate, when you hit back. I like the Opal Gem. I do use it on some of my weapons. It can be really great in PvP as well. It's a pretty passive gem. If you have it slotted in, you'll just be getting that bonus whenever you're below 100 stamina. So not a bad option. Now, the next one we're going to take a look at is the Malachite. And this one honestly kind of disappointed me. I was a little bummed out. The thing that bummed me out, at least in regards to the Greataxe, is that the gravity well does not count towards this. The way the Malachite works says that you get bonus damage whenever the target is affected by crowd control effects like slows, stuns, or roots. Now, the gravity well unfortunately does not count as any of those. It just pulls them for a moment, sort of keeps them in place. I guess it doesn't quite count as crowd control. However, this will still be active a lot in group PvP. If you are doing Outpost Rush or War, someone throws down that Ice Gauntlet AoE, someone's got a spear, you're stunning people, you will get that bonus damage then. And if you use an off weapon that has a lot of crowd control, you might be able to get more out of the Malachite here and be able to get that bonus damage when the enemy is slowed or rooted or whatever it may be. It's not as much of a damage boost as something like the Opal, but it's still really good and it can be really strong. Maybe not so much here on the Greataxe, but if you're using it on other weapons that have lots of crowd control, Malachite is a really strong option. Now, next on the list is the Diamond. Now, this one's pretty unique. The way Diamond works is that you get a damage boost when you are at full health, which again, sort of going in line with the Onyx Gem, is not going to be that often. You might be able to get that bonus at the very beginning of combat if you don't get hit first. If you're down even 1 HP, you're not getting that bonus at all. The Diamond to me is really something that's good for ranged weapons. Honestly, it's sort of like the unofficial healer gem because it does boost your healing if you're at full health as well. You do get a nice little damage bonus there, but like I said, if you get hit even in the slightest, this becomes null and void. So really not that great of an option for a melee weapon like the Greataxe. And now the next one on the list will be the Emerald Gem. This one is actually pretty interesting. I actually think it's a pretty compelling choice. We're going to talk about it a little bit. The way the Emerald works is that when the enemy is below 30% health, you get a boost to your damage. So it's sort of like an executioner style gem. If you're getting that enemy low, you're going to start doing more and more damage. Now, this is a really compelling choice for the Greataxe because there's a lot of things that give you extra damage as you get that enemy lower. There's a perk right here in the tree that makes it so if the enemy is below 50% health, you get a 10% armor penetration bonus, so you can start doing bonus damage there. And then when they get even lower, the gem will kick in, which will give you a big boost to damage. And then you can also have things like execute, which is going to give you massive damage as well. So you can really lean into that if you want to. I was pretty surprised by the Emerald. Once I put it on here, I was like, man, you can do some pretty cool stuff with the Emerald Gem. So if you're into that, you can set up those sort of executions on other players or on even just mobs. It can be a really strong option for the Greataxe, something to keep in mind here. However, the downside of it is that it's not always going to be active, of course. If you are fighting a strong team, an outpost rush or something, and they're healing their team, you're never going to get any benefit out of the Emerald. It will help you clean up those kills and finish people off, but not always going to be active. So a little bit of a trade, but a really strong option if you ask me. Now, there is another gem on the list here that is pretty interesting, and it was hard to test here at the testing dummies. I actually had to go test it out in the wild. This is the Jasper Gem, and this one's really weird. I struggled to understand it, but I just went to give it a shot to see how it works. The way this one works is that once you take 3 hits from an enemy, then you get a damage bonus, which doesn't sound bad. I mean, I guess that could be active, but we had to go find out. So what I did, I went out into the wild just to find a random wolf here. If we just run up to a wolf and swing at him, we would hit for 1032. That'll be sort of our baseline here. Now, if we stand still and let the wolf hit us a couple times, what we immediately notice is that the game doesn't tell us when that damage bonus is active, and we have no way of knowing how long that damage bonus is active, which kind of sucks. I mean, there's really just no way to know when this gem is working, how long it's working. Kind of unfortunate there. It does boost the damage up nicely. We do end up hitting for 1156, so it's a considerable bonus there. But like I said, no way to tell when it's active. We don't know how long. It might be good if you're like tanking and you're planning on getting hit a lot, you want to get that damage bonus. Might not be a bad option, but not really a great option for the Greataxe here. Now, I saved probably the 2 most complicated gems for last. There's going to be a lot that we need to explain here. The first one we're going to look at is the Amethyst. And under this umbrella, guys, this applies to all of the intelligence gems. There is Topaz, Ruby, Sapphire, Aquamarine, and Amethyst, if I'm not mistaken. Those are all the different ones you can use. These gems convert a portion of your damage to a different element. And while that may be beneficial in and of itself for a number of reasons, there are obviously weaknesses and resistances in the game. You can take advantage of that by giving your weapon some elemental damage. It does say that elemental damage will then scale off of intelligence or strength, whichever one is higher. So that is something to keep in mind. I've done testing on these gems before. They're pretty interesting. I'm not convinced they're functioning completely properly. We'll talk about that more in just a moment here. But just to take a look at some numbers here, here's what we did. I did first slot in the Amethyst and left myself still at 200 strength just to see the numbers. We do hit for 363 base. and 231 void. And then on a crit, we hit for 509 and 323 void. This is still less damage. This is less damage than if you just were to spec straight into strength with no gem. If you remember our base numbers, this is less than that, which is kind of interesting. We actually end up losing damage, even though we didn't change any of our stats. We just put in the gem. Now we're losing damage, which is kind of unfortunate. However, when we switch, if we go to respec our stats, which we will here, we're going to flip it a little bit. We're going to put all of our points into intelligence here. So we're at 200 intelligence now. We do still have 88 strength here. We are getting some of the passive benefits here from strength. We do get like a 5% bonus on our light attacks, but intelligence has really strong passives as well. We have a 10% increase to crit damage. We have a 15% increase to elemental damage, but it's really still not enough to save us. You can see we're doing 262 base, 288 void damage. That gives us a total of 550 base. On a crit, we hit 407 slash and 444 void. That gives us a total of 851. So these numbers really aren't much better than just the baseline numbers with no gem at all. I mean, granted, if the enemy is weak to void or weak to whatever element you choose, you will see extra damage there. You will see a significant increase to your damage there. But generally speaking, you won't be doing any more damage. You'll be doing slightly less. This is really only an option if you're using a secondary weapon that is based off of intelligence, like an ice gauntlet or a fire staff, potentially like a musket or a rapier. Those are things to keep in mind. Like I said, I have other videos going a little deeper with the intelligence gems, but in my opinion, not going to be the best option for the Greataxe here. You can, of course, continue to spec points into strength, even though you are spec'd into intelligence. That will raise your base damage up slightly, but it's still really not that beneficial at all. Now, the final gem we're going to test here on the Greataxe is the Amber Gem. This one functions similarly to the intelligence gems, but the Amber Gem is special because it is designed as a focus gem. This is something that's supposed to help you if you're more of a healer, if you're spec'd into that focus stat. But there's some issues with this gem, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but let's take a look at the numbers. So we did respec again. We threw all of our points into focus this time. We're at 200 focus. With that Amber Gem slotted in, the damage really is pretty bad. We're doing 262 slash, 206 nature damage for a total of 468 on a base hit. On a crit, it's 370 slash, 289 nature for a total of 659. Both of these are so much lower than our base numbers. It's really not great. It's pretty abysmal. I suppose it could be okay if you're fully spec'd into focus, but the devs have acknowledged that there is a problem going on with some of these scaling gems. And it was actually in a forum post where I saw one of my videos posted. They were talking about it. They did acknowledge that, hey, there's something going on with these focus gems. They're not working quite right. As soon as they have an update, I'm sure there'll be a fix pushed to the game. We will, of course, retest it then. But for now, guys, I sort of advise to stay away from these gems. Some of the other ones are just better options, much less complicated. Don't waste your money on these. Put it towards something else like a Malachite or Opal or anything else may be a better option, really. I really think that Emerald is pretty powerful. Now, of course, there are two gems that we're not talking about here. Those are the Carnelian and the Moonstone. Carnelian is obviously just a tanking gem. It's not really good for anything here. You can get the taunt mechanic going with one of the abilities on the Greataxe, but why would you do that? Just use a sword and shield if you're tanking or something else. It's really not that beneficial on Greataxe at all. And then, of course, the Moonstone. Maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm missing something, but this just seems like sort of a red herring. It's not really a great gem at all. You get a bonus to weapon damage when you're below 30% health. Why would you be hanging out down there? Why would you be purposely below 30% health? You're probably going to die, or you're going to drink a potion, or you're going to get healed, and your gem's just going to be null and void. I really don't see the benefit of the Moonstone at all as far as putting it onto a weapon. Definitely use something else. So obviously lots to go over and digest in this video. To sum it up, guys, the best options, like I said, it is a bit subjective, but for me, I really think the Emerald Gem is a pretty compelling option if you can make it work for you, because you can really slay out, especially in PvP. If you get people trapped and locked down, you're going to be able to kill them really fast. It's a pretty strong option. Other than that, I'd probably recommend The Opal. I really think the Opal is a great underrated gem. You're often below your max stamina, and it's just a passive damage bonus you can have active almost all the time. So those are going to be sort of my two unofficial recommendations, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well. If there's something I glossed over here, didn't realize, definitely point it out to me. Malachite could be good. If you have a good team comp, that's not a bad option as well. Let me know what you guys are running. So I just wanted to go over all the gems. Maybe I'll do this for some other weapons as well. Some people seem interested in seeing that, but I recently switched over to sort of a heavy armor Greataxe build myself, so I really wanted to run the numbers on all of this for my information as well as yours. So let me know what you guys are running. Let's have a discussion down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.